Hey everyone out there, thanks for joining me. I'm Tim Laskus and you're listening to another episode of the Tim Laskus Show. This is episode 93. Man, I can't believe it. This is going by so fast. We're approaching 100, which is very exciting. But even more exciting than that is the guest that I have today is Eddie Cole. If you're familiar with the motocross industry, you've heard of Eddie Cole. He's an icon, and his roots go way back into the 70s when he was a former factory rider for Team Kawasaki and Bultaco. But after multiple injuries, he had to step back and scratch his head and go, how can I continue to be involved and make some money and be a part of the sport? So his answer was to create Answer Racing. And oh man, he has developed one of the most recognized brands out there. And he joined influencers such as Bob the Hurricane Hanna and Johnny O'Mara. And he knew that, with their recognition and credibility, it would help his brand. He had quality products and he teamed up with great people. And that was really part of the secret to his success. And today he shares his story. He's a great storyteller of where he came from, where he's at today. He also shares some interesting insight into the health of the sport today. Today, what he's doing is he's the founder of Group 6 USA, which you probably already know, but he has 6 iconic brands within or under this umbrella. And these include Matrix Concepts, Atlas Brace, Next Components, Tag Metals, 7 IDP, and Royal Racing. So you're just going to enjoy this episode. And then after, I'd like you to head on over to group6usa.com and you can learn more about his companies and his great products, and just be sure to support him in the industry. Also, before you leave, be sure to check out other episodes that you may be interested in that have to do with motocross. Episode 60 has Zach Osborne, Blake Baggett, and Jason Wygant. Episodes 82 and 83 is the Mickey Diamond interview. Episode 72 is Donnie Hansen. Episode 24 is Gary Simmons. And episode 90 is Donnie Imler Jr. So be sure to check those out on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever iHeartRadio, they're there as well. So thanks for joining me. Hey, and let me know what you think about these motocross episodes at timlaskus.com. So email me at tim@timlaskus.com. Let me know what you think. Enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests, entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Happy to be here, Tim.
So when you're not working, because I know you're very busy, what are you doing for fun out in sunny California?
Well, I'm a pretty odd duck, to be honest with you. You know what? I enjoy working, and I'm a student of business, and I'm involved in several different projects, whether they're in the community here on a nonprofit basis, or they're with my sons and a few different businesses that I sit on boards, and so I really enjoy working. And but other than that, I have a great family. I've got 3 kids and my wife, and so we spend a lot of time together. And I play a little bit of golf, but that seems to be more frustrating than going to the office every day. So I like to come to work and rest.
There you go. Absolutely. I'm with you on golf. I get more frustrated and angry and pissed off when I'm out there swinging and digging holes into the green. I mean, it's a terrible sight. So, but I'm sure you're better than I am. But you'd mentioned, you like to sit on boards, and being in California, people automatically think a surfboard, but you're not talking about a surfboard. You're talking about boards of companies.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, good point. Yeah, that might be misinterpreted. There you go.
So I take it you're not out there, climbing Mount Everest, preparing for crazy stuff that's going on that people sometimes do in these extreme sports, but you are involved in the motocross industry. Kind of take us back, Eddie, as a pro factory rider. I know you raced for several years. Tell the listeners a little bit about your background in racing.
Yeah, I grew up here in Southern California, and my I had no real introduction or experience in the world of motorcycling. I had a neighbor who had a Husqvarna, and I used to sit in the driveway and watch him work on that thing, and he took me to a motocross race out in Westlake Village, and I saw all the Europeans there, and boy, you know, I was there. I was introduced one time, and I was hooked. And I came home and said, you know, that's what I want to do. I want to ride motorcycles and race motorcycles. So I traded my drum set for a mini bike, and then that progressed to a couple other small motorcycles, and that's what I wanted to do after school every day. So I ended up starting racing at a late age, probably about 15 years old, which at the time maybe wasn't that late really, but you know, nowadays they're starting before they can walk practically. But back then, I started as an amateur in Southern California and really had a great time growing up riding in the desert and doing motocross, and then that progressed into riding as a professional. And so I rode for a few different brands throughout the years. And 1974, I had a factory ride with Kawasaki, and I was really a development rider and a racer for those guys. They were just developing their new 125 two-stroke. It was a rotary valve, and we rode against factory Honda, had a pretty good team at that time, and Yamaha was there, and Suzuki had a pretty formidable team as well. So we did okay. I mean, we were always in the top three until about the last lap, and that darn thing would blow up every time on the last lap. The results were not very good, but we were actually very competitive. But so I rode for Kawasaki, Bultaco, Penton motorcycles, and had a great time, and had most of my success here on the West Coast, not as much on a national level, but it was a lot of fun, and so we did that for several years.
And then you came to a crossroads where you had to decide whether you were going to continue racing or start a business. How did that kind of come about?
Yeah, I had about 2 or 3 knee operations, and it was actually time to go to work for a living. And I had met a guy named Fred Hoblet here at the local races. And actually, the Super Bowl of motocross was the very first the first Supercross race in the LA Coliseum. And I was riding for Bultaco at the time, and they wanted me to ride the 500 support class at that event. The 250 class was kind of an international class that particular year. And they sent me a motor from Bultaco, and it shifted on the wrong side. It shifted on the right-hand side, and I was used to shifting on the left side. It was a European motor, and I couldn't ride the bike. I couldn't figure out the brake from the shifter, and it was I'm not that coordinated. So this particular guy, anyway, he had bought a brand new 360 Bultaco from a local Bultaco shop, and they had told me this kid had just bought this. So I called him up, and I said, hey, I'm riding in the Super Bowl motocross, and I'll tell you what, I'll take you with me to the races, and I'll split whatever we win, but I need your motor. And he said, sure, I'm in. And so we did, and I think we got 7th or 8th, and he made a little bit of money. He was happy. And on the way home from the race, he had made a special swing arm for the bike. And on the way home from the race, I said, Fred, that thing worked really, really well, and I think I could sell those at the races. And so he said, yeah, well, let's build some. So he took $100 and I took $100, and we went down to the local tubing supplier. We bought some product, went home in the garage, made up 6 or 7 of those swing arms, and we sold them all in a weekend. So now we had a couple grand. And so we took that, and we went back to the tube supplier, and we bought $2,000 worth of material. And Answer Products was born from that idea. And so our first product was a Bultaco aftermarket swing arm that we brought to market, and we couldn't make those darn things fast enough. And so we sold them to Bultaco riders all over the U.S., and we had some magazine friends that helped us promote the thing. And so, so with a couple $100, we were funded and we were ready to go, and we started Answer Products literally in the garage with $200.
Wow, well, that's such an amazing story, and it sounds like the writing was on the wall, and its success just seemed to come easy for you in business. So I'm sure you were like, yes, I was meant to do this.
Yeah. Well, there's no question we were in the right place at the right time. And with a little bit of luck and a little bit of hard work, we were able to put it together. And when I look back on those times, I mean, it was really a lot of fun. The market was growing. It seemed like we couldn't really do anything wrong, frankly. And we started out with that Bultaco swing arm, and then we expanded into handlebars, and then from there to soft goods. And when I left Answer Products, there were 205 people there, and doing quite a bit of business. And so it was something I was very proud of to be part of. But the truth is, I mean, I like to take the credit for it, but it really was about the people that were there at the time. And we were fortunate enough to surround ourselves with the right people. And there was some pixie dust in the air that it's hard to identify. And, everything kind of came together. And we had a product. We had a lot of people with a lot of passion. And we probably weren't the smartest group in town, but you know what? We really had a passion for what we were doing. And you mix that with some hard work and some good timing, and we were pretty dangerous, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, it sounds like it, and I'm sure you've been called the marketing genius. I mean, you had, Bob Hanna and Johnny O'Mara also, helping you, and has that been kind of your staple of being able to keep your name out there, or the name of the company, and grow your brand by having the top riders represent your products?
Well, Tim, I think that, I think that's part of the marketing success that we have had, is that we've always been connected with what we call influencers. And those influencers have really played a key role in our marketing strategies, but it's one component of it. So it is important to have those influencers, and we've been so fortunate to, all the way back to, Brad Lackey and Bob Hanna, to McGrath and Doug Henry and those kinds of guys, all the way to Dungy and the current guys, and Villapoto and even Zach Osborne, who's won a couple championships this year. So we've been so fortunate to be involved all the way from the very beginning in the mid-'70s all the way to 2017, and our brands have always used those influencers as part of the marketing strategy, and that served us well, no question about it.
Yeah, and it's also, people would not continue to come back and buy from you if they didn't know you had quality products, and that's what you've always had for so many years in all the different companies. And when you started Answer Racing, what was kind of the run that you had with that company before? How many years before you ended up selling that company?
Well, let's see. I'd have to do a little bit of math here. So we started that company in 1976, and we ended up selling it to one of our largest customers in 1990, I believe. 1990. So we, and then I stayed, after we sold the company, I stayed as the chief operating officer till 1998, actually, 1997.
Oh, wow.
So, so we, I was there for quite a few years, and really enjoyed the business, even after I had sold the majority of the stock to LBI, who was the owner Lacey Diversified Industries is who we sold it to, and they were the owners of Tucker Rocky at the time, which was one of our largest customers. So from 76 to 97, I was there at Answer Products.
Wow. Now, was it hard after you sold the company to kind of still be a part of it and know that it was, it was your baby and you no longer really had control of what was going on, but you still worked with the company? Were there times where you're like, man, I just don't know if they're going in the right direction?
No, you know what? I never had that feeling with that particular situation. The day that they closed, the next day that I went to work, it was no different. There were no new faces there. We were still there on our own. I was in charge of the company, and I'll tell you what they allowed us to do was they brought a little more structure to the business as investors in the business, and they gave us the capital that we needed to grow the business and take it to the next level. We were just expanding into the cycling side of the business, and we were able to grow the business significantly and had a lot of fun. So I never really had the feeling that anybody was second guessing us. They were giving us the resources that we needed. We had a really capable team, and we had an awful lot of fun, and we really grew that company. So when things are going good, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and when they start going bad, it's a cat fight, and certainly not a lot of fun. But here it is. You sold it in 1990. You had an opportunity to maybe kind of go off into the sunset and do your thing. And I'm sure you had plenty of money you could move down to Costa Rica and just kind of disappear, but you didn't. You continued to work until 97. And then again, you probably had another opportunity to disappear somewhere and you didn't. So what did you choose to do after 97?
Yeah. So, it goes back to the original comments when we first started the discussion. I could have played golf. And in 97, what happened is we had a major recall at Answer Products with a product called Manitou. We built a bicycle suspension line called Manitou Suspension. And we had an issue with a dropout on a fork. And what happened is the fork, the dropouts would come off the fork and the front wheel would fall off. It wasn't a good thing. And so we went through that. We went through that issue with Manitou, and it was a real tough time in the company in 1997. And so we had decided that it needed different leadership, and we needed somebody that had more of an engineering background to look at running the company, and so I ended up leaving at that time, and I was basically going to retire, and that lasted about 6 months, and we ended up deciding to start a new company, deal with Axo, and we brought Axo into the cycling market, and from there we created 661, which was a line of protection products in the cycling side. We expanded that into motorcycling. So we had started a whole new company in 1998.
I see. Now, did your family say, Eddie, what are you doing? Why do you need to keep doing this to yourself? Or were they happy to keep you out of the house?
Yeah, I think that my wife was probably happy that I had to actually go somewhere every day and not drive her crazy. But I've been so fortunate to have such a strong support group around me growing up and in my adult life. My parents were the best parents in the world. And whatever Eddie wanted to do, they were there to support him. Whether it was racing motorcycles and hanging out with a bunch of guys they weren't sure about, and to being in business and taking a bunch of risk. And my wife, and same thing. They always trusted me to make good decisions, and they were always there to support me. And so that, we can talk a lot about being in the right place at the right time and marketing, being a good marketer and having good product ideas, but you do need a good support group around you, I think, and so I've been fortunate in that respect.
Well, that's wonderful that you've had that. It sounds like you've had your own cheering section since the day you were born, Eddie, and just cheering you on for success. And so, if we kind of fast forward to today, what is the company that you're running today? Tell the listeners a little bit about that. And I know you have other companies that are kind of in that umbrella. And what is the range of products that you offer?
Yeah, so we're pretty diversified right now, and so after Valencia Sport Group, 661 and AXO, we ended up taking that company, growing that company, and ended up selling it in 2007, right before the major downturn in the economy. And then 2009, we were back at it again and started another company. And today, the company is called Group 6 USA. And that won't mean much to the listeners here today, but the brands underneath Group 6 is really a corporate name, a corporate umbrella. And under that sits Matrix Concepts, which is a line of garage and track necessities like stands and cans, ramps, tie-downs. And so we supply all the top factory teams today with those products. And then in addition to Matrix Concepts, there's Atlas Brace Technologies, which is a line of off-road neck braces and body protection. And along with Atlas is Next Components, which is a line of bolt-on performance components like levers and foot pegs and shifters and that type of thing. We just acquired back Tag Metals, which we're going to relaunch in January this year, that we're really excited about. So we've redone the logo and the packaging and all the products, and it's going to have a complete line of handlebars, grips, sprockets, and chain. So we're really, really looking forward to launching that in January. And then it has two bicycle product lines, 7IDP, which stands for Intelligently Designed Products Protection, and Royal Apparel, which is a line of mountain bike apparel. So hence Group 6, there are 6 brands in the program. And that's what we're doing today. So we're very diverse in terms of our product mix and product lines, and we're both in bicycling and motorcycling today. So that's one major project that I'm involved in.
Well, that's amazing. It sounds like, that is quite a handful. That must keep you very, very busy. And what is your footprint in Europe with your companies or with Group 6?
Yeah, so we do have a complete distribution network in Europe. So we sell in every country in Western and Eastern Europe, and we do have a marketing and a sales office there in the UK, and it's a major part of our business today.
And do you see that at some point overcoming kind of your USA sales, or is it like kind of what is the percentage of of overall sales of Europe versus what you have here in the States?
Yeah, so it's currently about 35% of the overall business in Europe. Export as a total, when you add in this South and Central America and the Pacific Rim, export probably equals about 50% of the total business. I would imagine that it will remain very similar to that as we grow the business. So proportionally, as we grow, the U.S. market will continue to grow, and so will Europe. But I think percentage-wise, export to domestic is about 50-50.
I see. Now you have several children. Are they involved in helping you with your company?
Yeah, you know what? I feel like I got several children, but actually I have 3. But it feels like several from time to time. It might even feel like a dozen from time to time. My 2 boys are involved, Chad and Cameron. Cameron works mostly on the operations side. He's really good with computers, and he's kind of our go-to guy operationally at Group 6. And my son Chad, he has a little bit of riding background, and he grew up racing motorcycles as an amateur, and so he understands the product and the marketing side, and he's really good with people. So he deals with all the race teams and making sure that they have what they need. He works up in the design department and is part of our product and marketing team. So he understands the product and the marketing. Cameron understands the business side, the finance side. So together they're going to make a great team as they mature and as they learn more about business. So they're like two sponges right now. They're in their mid-20s. And, they're here every day with me, and we've got a great team of people here that are all working really well together.
Now, are you tougher on them than your other employees that work with you?
Yeah, I am. I figure that no matter what I say to them, they're still going to love me. But so I am a little tougher on them, but I don't think they pay attention as much to me as the rest of the team. So
they're like, "Oh, Dad."
I try to be tougher, but I don't think that they. I think like most kids, their dad doesn't know what he's talking about.
Isn't that the truth? That's hilarious. Now, Eddie, I'm curious about your thoughts about the sport of motocross and supercross here in the States. Do you think that the sport is healthy right now? Several of the teams are folding up. There's not as many rides, out there, especially in the 450 class. Like, how do you view, the industry today here in the States?
Yeah, I kind of have to break that question down into a couple pieces. One, I think that if we just first talk about the industry, I think we're in a tough spot. I think that it feels like there's we're contracting, and it's pretty stagnant. And depending on who you talk to, they're either flat or they're down. And so I think people overall, the world's a pretty scary place right now. And I think that people are a bit nervous, and I think that we don't have the kind of growth that I'd really like to have right now. And I think it's probably just not motorcycling or bicycling, but it's worldwide. I think everybody's nervous overall. And so to decode all this and to answer, the industry part, I think it's softer than I would like to see it. And I think we need to get more riders introduced to the sport. I think that the cost of equipment and motorcycles is gotten pretty darn expensive. And I think that we've got to look at how do we bring some of these cost factors down a little bit to attract new people and younger people into the sport. So I think we've got our work cut out for us on the industry growth side, and so that's going to be a bit challenging. I think from a racing perspective, we're seeing probably record-breaking attendance at Supercross races, and I think there are a lot of fans out there, and so I think it's good from that perspective. The TV element is good, but I think racing as a business is a tough business, and so I can see where we go through these cycles where there are teams that come and there are teams that go, and I think that that's going to continue. And so even though we've seen a few teams leave this year, I think if you look back at history, that's probably been pretty consistent over the last 20 years or so, where teams have come and gone, and we always seem to lose a few each year and then gain a couple back, and so on and so forth, right? And so it's kind of a seesaw type effect. But I think there's still it's a viable business, but it's a tough business being in the racing business and trying to make a buck at it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you've seen some ups and downs throughout your time and lots of bumpy roads, and eventually they smooth out for you. And, my thoughts, kind of with RCH kind of folding up is, people may be who may have thought about starting a team may second guess, because it's like, well, if Ricky Carmichael and Carey Hart, with all the kind of the star power they have, and if they can't make it work, how in the world could anyone else make it work? And so there may be the kind of that fear factor now of wow, is it even possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think people are going to look at that and question, what why did that happen, or why is that happening? And I think there's more factors than just the financial factor in that particular situation. So what I do know is people's lives change, and priorities change. And as Ricky and Carey Hart and the guys that were involved in that at the higher level, who knows what personal reasons or financial reasons or others even just timing. So they did that for quite some time, right? I think that was that was a 7, 10, 8, 9, 10-year effort.
Yeah, something like
Carey
that.
Hart starting it in the beginning to finishing up, and they had quite a run.
Yes.
So. Yeah. But I think, I mean, from 10,000 feet, and I don't know much about racing and teams finance, but it seems like it's a pretty tough business to be in.
Yeah, for sure.
And make any money at it.
Yeah, and you make some good points. And Eddie, what would you say is one of the most fulfilling kind of moments of your journey of having all these different companies and all the things that you've done? Is there kind of a moment that stands out where it was just really fulfilling, and you're able to reflect back and go, wow, I'm glad that I was a part of that?
Yeah, well, that is a great question, Tim. I don't know if there's a moment, but that sticks out for me that I can think of right here this second. But in general, I have been, when I reflect back on the last 40 years and this particular journey from starting to race motocross all the way to today, and you and I on the phone this moment, I think the thing that does stick out is that motorcycling has been so rewarding in terms of the complete journey, from meeting the people that I've met to being able to travel the world, to be able to have the successes and be part of the successes that we've had with our brands. When you combine all that up together, it's a pretty good feeling, Tim, that we've been able to help a lot of people. A lot of people have helped us, and it's been a lot of fun. And I've really enjoyed the people that I've met along the way and the people that I've worked with. And we have lifelong friends from being in business. And so I don't know if that answers part of.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't mean to ramble on here, but
no.
It's been the whole experience has been great.
Yeah, and it would be safe to assume that if you had to do it all over again, that you would go down the same path.
Yeah. A lot of people have asked me, "Hey, Eddie, did you sell the first company at the right time? Would you have sold the second company? Would you have started the third company? Would you do something different?" And, the answer has always been very consistent. No, I wouldn't do anything over again. And I wouldn't, look, we had to make a lot of hard decisions along the way. We had to make tough decisions. There were times when we were in really tough spots. It's not always been perfect. It's not always been rosy. And, I've used guys like Bob Hanna as inspiration when things aren't going well. And you're always going to go through those times when things aren't going well. And you've got to keep the fight. You got to keep the hope. You got to keep the focus, and you got to keep working at it. And if you pay attention to those 3 or 4 things, the bad times will pass, and you'll be better off for going through those bad times, right? I mean, I know this is all kind of general statements, but it is really true in life and in business, is that you've got to embrace the tough times and learn from those and move on and try not to recreate the same mistakes that you made.
Well, I think that's a much needed message, Eddie, because, sometimes we kind of just get hung up on, problems and issues, but you're absolutely right that, times will get better and things will improve and people need hope. And sometimes just kind of hearing someone kind of give them that talk, spurs them to continue going. And I know you've touched lots of lives. You've been a fantastic, part of the industry and motocross, and you've just done wonderful things. And I just want to, thank you for coming on the show today and sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your story. And but before we go, Eddie, can you tell the listeners where they can find you online and any social media sites that you're on?
Yeah, so you can go to www.group6usa.com. That's our corporate site. And you can link to all of our different brands from there. So it's www.group6usa.com, and the 6 is a digit in that name. And we're on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, but I don't know the actual addresses to those. But all the brands are on all those social media outlets for sure.
Well, there you go. Eddie Cole, thank you very much. Everyone, be sure to visit group6usa.com. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing all the great things that you continue to do, Eddie. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I've enjoyed it.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskus.com.